Welcome, friends. Welcome back to the kitchen. A few weeks ago we did a whiskey cake. And a couple of years ago we did a Coca-Cola cake. A couple of weeks ago we also did a 7-Up cake, and I think the less we say about the 7-Up cake, the better we'll all be. So we'll forget about the 7-Up cake. Go back to the Coca-Cola cake and the whiskey cake. Why not combine the two? Why not do a rye and Coke cake? So that's what we're going to do today. And it starts out, it's going to be a bundt cake as well. Starts out in the stand mixer. What you always do, butter and sugar, cream them together. So let that go. Got some eggs to put in there soon. Now, I am going to mix together the flour with the other dry ingredients. If you've ever watched me bake anything in the past, I always just do sort of a very light blending. I don't really go to town. But I'm using cocoa powder in this recipe. And I find that if I mix the cocoa powder in with the other dry ingredients, it mixes together in the stand mixer so much easier later. So flour, cocoa powder, baking soda, baking powder, and salt. Now, a lot of people are going to ask about the cocoa powder. This is not Dutch process. This is natural cocoa powder. There's so much acid in this cake later because we're putting in the Coca-Cola. Lots of acid in the Coke. And we're going to put in a little bit of buttermilk as well just to add a little bit of extra flavor. A lot of acid there as well. We don't need to have the acid from the Dutch processed cocoa powder. Now, like I said, the Coke is bringing a ton of acid to the party. Phosphoric acid, to be exact. You could use other pops in this if you wanted. I mean, Dr. Pepper, root beer would be great. You could use either of those. Some of those use citric acid, but it's the same thing. You're getting an acid component. A lot of people think that the carbonation is what gives the cake leavening. By the time we mix all of this together, any carbonation that's in this pop is gone. It's the acid that is activating the baking soda and also tenderizing the cake. Same with this, the buttermilk. You're going to get some tenderization. You're definitely going to get acid. And so we need a 1/4 cup of buttermilk. Pour that in. Now we come to the whiskey component. Use whatever whiskey you like. I'm just going to use rye, Canadian rye. Fairly easy. It's got a good flavor profile. It mixes together well with other things. You could use any bourbon. You could use any whiskey. You could use any scotch. You don't like any of those and you like rum, use rum. Rum would work really well in this. Tequila. Tequila, again, would work really well in this. So, pour that in. Now we've got our liquid, our dry, our butter and sugar is creamed together, so I think it's time to add the eggs. Eggs go in one at a time. Number one comment I get out on the street when people meet us out on the street is, Glenn, why don't you crack your eggs into a separate bowl and then transfer into the bowl that you're mixing from? Why do you crack your eggs directly into the mixing bowl? It's just the way I do it. I'm not afraid of getting a bad egg. I'm 56 years old and I've never had a bad egg, and I go through a lot of eggs. So I'm not worried about that. If I get a little piece of shell in, I just stick my finger in and I pull it out. It's not a big deal. I just don't go to the bother. If that's something that you want to do, go right ahead. I mean, it's probably best practice. It's definitely what was taught in school when I was a youngster and they still had home ec. Always crack it into another bowl. You're just never going to catch me doing that. I just don't do it. Okay, so that is an incredible fluffy mixture. Now, take your dry ingredients and spoon in a little bit. Just turn that down because it's going to be too fast. Put in 3 or 4 scoops. Let it mix in. And when it's most of the way mixed in, pour in some of your wet ingredients, and then let that fully incorporate before you go back in with a little bit more of the dry, and just go back and forth until it's fully incorporated. Now, I've got a bundt pan and I have greased it, even though it's non-stick, and in goes the batter. So I'm doing this in a bundt pan. There's no reason at all that you couldn't just do this in regular cake tins, square, round. Your cooking time would be different, but it's not a big deal. You could do it any way you want. I just like the presentation of a bundt pan. And the other thing is, I've got a half dozen bundt pans down in the equipment room. They're all labeled as being the same size. But they're not. There's about a 1 cup variation between the largest and the smallest, which is really odd. So this fits into a standard sized bundt pan. Oven preheated 350 degrees. I'm going to set the timer to 45 minutes. That'll be the first time I come back and look at it, and then I'll just keep an eye on it until a cake tester comes out clean. Ooh. Hey, Jules.
Hey, Glenn. Hey, friends. Haha. Is this version 3?
Version 3.
It looks great. Version 2 tasted great.
Version 1 was a complete disaster.
I didn't even get to try version 1. It was
straight into the bin.
Did you see version 1?
No.
Okay, you didn't even get to see version 1. Neither did I.
Version 2 tasted amazing, but it needed some help. This is version 3, and it looks fantastic. I'm hoping that the flavors and the moistness carried through from version 2.
So it looks like it's still moist without being really moist, which was the problem with the last version.
Yeah. Okay. So.
Nice balance there, Glenn.
Yeah. You get a hint of the whiskey flavor.
Just a hint.
Just a hint. It's just barely there. The Coca-Cola doesn't come through at all, but
it adds.
It's lifting the chocolate flavor.
Yeah, I was gonna say it builds the flavor.
Yeah.
It's not really the umami. I guess maybe it is, but it's not bitter. But it's like there's something about it. The bite. Gives it a bite.
Gives it a little bit, and it lifts that chocolate.
Takes you a while sometimes, eh?
I'm not a fan of cocoa powder in cakes.
Oh no, that's my own bias.
But that is cocoa powder in the cake.
And there you go.
The Coca-Cola lifts the flavor, rounds it out, and makes it so that it's. Now I didn't glaze this. I've got 2 glaze recipes that I've worked out that would go on this. One is more of a brown sugar whiskey, almost butterscotch type thing.
That would go really well.
That would go really well on it.
That would go really well.
The other one is more of a chocolate Coke kind of glaze that would go really well on it too. I just like cake.
I don't think have we ever mentioned the fact
Yeah,
we don't necessarily glaze or ice cake.
Yeah. So I think this is a winner. I really like this. I'm really happy with this.
Of course, the irony is that we're not quite done eating the last. Not quite done eating version 2, but that's okay. That's okay. We'll figure it out.
I like that.
That's nice.
Correct.
Well done, Glenn.
So, I don't know what to say. Give it a try. Like the glazes, throw one of the glazes on top. It's elegant, it's adult, it's deep flavors, it's rich, it's moist. It's a really good cake. Thanks for stopping by. See you again soon.